I've written down my music. It's just an empty book. I like to call it the music book because look at what happens when I... Can you hear that? Can you hear that? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a few pages of this music book and I'm going to try blowing into the pages by leaving the pages loose. You heard that? The shrieking sound? I'm going to press onto the paper and stretch it out and hold it really tight, unlike the other parts of the book. You see that? You know what I'm going to do? Loose and tight, just so that you can appreciate the difference. Tight. Loose. I'm going to blow very hard. I'm going to blow softly. You see the difference that it's creating, right? If I hold it really tight, it produces a very shrill sound. If I hold it a little loose, it produces a little less shrill sound. And if I blow really hard into it, it seems to produce very loud sounds. If I don't blow that hard into it, it seems to produce very low sound. Now, our voice box inside is similar to how these pages of the book are, right? The pages of the book, because I'm blowing air, are fluttering about, and that fluttering motion is a vibratory motion, which is giving us the sounds that we experience, or the sounds that we're able to create. Now, it turns out that we have two flaps inside of our throat, which is called the vocal cords. In humans, the vibration of the vocal cords is what produces sound. Now, I'd like us to jump to a quick animation right there. And I'm going to play it and I'm going to try mimicking it out for you, right? This is, imagine us putting a camera here and looking through it and we can see what's inside. This is how it'll look from this angle, all right? Okay, so okay, I'm going to come back to this animation, guys. So you see that? Did you notice that? As the things were changing, I was just trying to produce a sound which was similar to the animation. If I wanted a very shrill sound, I would stretch my vocal cords. If I wanted a very deep sound, I would compress my vocal cords. And that's exactly how the mechanism inside works, just as much as any other instrument. It's just that you and I don't pay so much conscious effort to it. It happens sort of on autopilot. There's a lot of motion happening inside, controlled motion. And there's a lot of physics and mathematics that's going on in terms of how those waves are behaving. That produces the sound. And our brain is so amazing at computing all of this that we are not even aware that we're doing so much of computation when we go... Those are different notes that you might be familiar with, right? Okay, generally we say that men have deeper voices, women have slightly shriller voices, and kids obviously have a very shrill voice. Now it turns out that the vocal cord size and shape really influences the kind of voice that we have. Now remember, all of this is formed by muscular components, right? In other words, these are just muscles. If you go to the gym and work out every day, or if you're an athlete and you practice every day, the way you get faster and stronger is exactly how you can train your vocal cords to get a range of sounds. Nobody is born with some inborn talent for singing. You can always train your muscles to do exactly what they need to do to give you a wide dynamic range. In men, turns out that the vocal cord is about 20 millimeters long, and it's not as stretched out as it is in women, for whom averagely the vocal cord is about 15 millimeters long, 1.5 centimeters. That's how much there is out there. In fact, I'd like you to go Google this, right? Or do an internet search for, not pharynx, sorry, larynx. I'm going to write that down again. Larynx. Remember the voice box which contains vocal cords? That's called the larynx. I'd like you to do an internet search on camera of larynx when people are singing. you'll actually see where they've put a camera out there and it shows how the vocal cords are moving with the way the song is moving or the song is progressing. Now, that's not the only musical part that we have, right? We can always have... That's a percussion instrument. This is kind of like a flappy string instrument. I can also produce sound using... Have you ever tried that? Whistling? Just like that column of air with the bottles that we saw and the flute that we saw, the whistling is also creating a column of air. If you notice, if you know how to whistle, if you want to produce a higher ring, you'll notice that your mouth is much smaller because your tongue comes out. Now there's a larger or higher column and it produces a much lower sound. Different kinds of sounds that can be produced. Yeah, you can make sounds sound very melodious if you put together different sounds in a pattern one after the other, right? That's